And with me now in the studio is the international analyst Marco Vicenzino. Marco, is this set to be the next big humanitarian crisis on our hands here?
If confirmed, this report, it will be the single largest loss of human life since this current wave of migrants to Europe started in 2011. Won't be the first, and it definitely won't be the last. So in that sense, this is a problem that can't be solved, but it has to be managed over a period of time, because basically you have different factors at play. You have, obviously, it's the war and the conflicts in the Middle East and North Africa driving these wave of migrants. Also from sub-Saharan Africa, other adversities that are driving people. Many of them just simply have nothing to lose. So they're putting their lives on the line and the lives of their own family and their own children. So basically at this point, and then you have a third element here, which is the deep economic crisis in Europe, particularly in the Mediterranean countries, which have strained budgets, and many of them are lacking the resources to be able to address this issue, and particularly Italy. Italy's looking at probably its greatest economic crisis since the end of the Second World War.
So how can countries like Italy and others within the EU involved in this, I guess you could say, search and rescue mission, help in terms of getting their priorities right domestically, yet at the same time reach out and help the migrants who are coming over from Libya and other places?
On the domestic political fronts, many of the mainstream parties are fearing the rise of populist anti-immigration parties. So this is something that needs to be done on a collective level in Europe. There needs to be greater burden sharing in Europe. That's extremely important. Italy, for itself, I think Italy deserves its fair share of credit. When it was in October of 2013, is when there was another event, 300 lost in one day when a boat capsized. Italy began the Mare Nostrum operation. The Mare Nostrum was basically the Italian military search and rescue, even into Libyan waters, going beyond. After 1 year of that happening, over 2014, there was 170,000 people that reached the shores of Europe. The rest of Europe began to basically apply pressure and saying you can't do this, this is encouraging further migration. Hence, in October of 2014, Mare Nostrum switched to Operation Triton, and Operation Triton is running on about $3 million a month, whereby Operation Mare Nostrum was running at $10 million a month, far more limited. The search and rescue capability was also limited, and also in that sense, they stay close to the Italian shoreline. Hence, but now with the waters that are warming in the Mediterranean, the weather is getting better. There's going to be even more numbers coming in the coming weeks. Hence, the greater need for burden sharing and a more collective effort in trying to address this issue.
So charities like Save the Children have called on the EU to do more for search and rescue. Like you say, the Mare Nostrum programme was downsized to a new programme which is 2/3 less than what Mare Nostrum was. Does the EU have more of a duty to asylum seekers?
I don't know if it's a duty, it's an inevitable responsibility. People are reaching on your shores. The fact is that the conflicts, particularly in North Africa and the Middle East, are driving this, and the gaping hole here is Libya. 1,700 kilometers of shoreline that's completely open, two rival governments fighting, and basically the smugglers are having an open field day. And most of these boats are taking off from western Libya. So apart from greater, what needs to be done is greater burden sharing within Europe. Secondly, there needs to be a huge diplomatic pressure applied to both sides of the Libyan conflict, who have been conducting talks in Morocco on the UN auspices. Both sides need to be pressured to come together, form a coalition government, and restore order to the shores of Libya and to Libya itself.
And do you think what we're seeing now has any relation to the end of the Gaddafi regime, when borders were perhaps more tightly controlled from Libya?
Well, that's a big debate. Was it better to have Gaddafi? You had someone there before, but we're beyond Gaddafi now. Now the idea is that you had a series of elections since 2011, since the fall of Gaddafi. You had a series of elections in Libya. Obviously, there's many difficulties, many grievances. That needs to be resolved. And once again, it's rival governments fighting each other. The international, ultimately, it's got to be Libyans to resolve this issue. But the international community has to apply the pressure necessary to bring both sides together and to provide them also, and to provide the Libyans and other states in North Africa with the means to be able to address this issue. What's left of the Libyan Coast Guard presently only has 3 boats that are operational to address this situation.
I understand you've got family in the southern Italian region as well. Do you know what sort of personal experiences they have?
Well, I've seen myself. I mean, I've seen myself. I'm familiar with these places. I've witnessed them in 2013 and 2014. I visited the places where many of these migrants were arriving. The locals, I have to give credit. I mean, Italy deserves its fair of credit. You know, the people throughout Italy and the people of Sicily, they've been very giving. They've been very generous. But even generosity has its limits. Hence, the need for other member states in Europe to assume a greater share of their burden.
Marco Vicenzino, thank you very much indeed for that.
Thank you.